It's that time of the season once again where we try and pick our brains to figure out who will be driving where for 2018. In today's video, guys, we are going to be predicting where all the drivers are going to be driving for in the 2018 season. Now, I have a pretty good idea of where all the F1 drivers will be. There aren't many new names coming into the sport, in my opinion, and there are a few drivers leaving, but we will be getting to that. It is quite confusing, this grid, because not a lot of rumours have come out. You've had a few teams which have sort of semi-confirmed their driver lineup of Haas, saying that Grosjean and Magnussen will be driving for them next season. But in terms of that, other teams have sort of really kept quiet. And contracts this season, quite a lot of them are actually running out this season and next season. So it's interesting to sort of figure out which drivers are going to be where. But we're going to start with the #1 team at the moment in the sport, which is of course Mercedes. And in my personal opinion, they're going to stay the same. Valtteri Bottas has done a really decent job since he's come into Mercedes. He's not been a #2 driver. He's nowhere near being a #2 driver. He is close to Lewis Hamilton in the points, and he's not too far off competing for the championship as well. Everyone is saying this championship is between Vettel and Hamilton. And I suppose, yes, Hamilton and Vettel, those names sell media and they sell the product of Formula 1 because they're big names in the sport. Valtteri Bottas isn't a big name in the sport, but he is coming for that championship. I feel like he will be a championship contender by the end of the season with him, Vettel, and Lewis Hamilton. So that's going to be really interesting, but I feel like he has done the job to stay within that team. Now moving on to Mercedes rivals Ferrari. And the big question here is, will Kimi Räikkönen retire from Formula 1? And I feel like personally, he will sort of retire from F1, but Ferrari will at the same time just sort of like push him out and try and get him out of that Ferrari seat, because he's done a good job for them. He is a really good #2 driver. You just look at the Hungarian Grand Prix where he sat back in P2, held off Hamilton, held off Bottas, and got Vettel to win that race to help him out in the championship. But I feel like he's just not done enough. If you look at how well Bottas is doing in the championship, he is up there. Whereas Kimi Räikkönen, I think he is even below Daniel Ricciardo in the standings. So Kimi Räikkönen, unfortunately, has just not done a good enough job this season. He may have a similar sort of season to last year where he had a huge resurgence, doing better than Vettel, and actually caught up quite a lot of points towards the end of the season. He may do that, but I just feel like that's a little bit too far gone at this stage of the season. So yes, I do feel like Kimi Räikkönen will be out of the sport next season. This season will be his final season in Formula 1, but who replaces him? Now, there's been a lot of names thrown about. You have the likes of Sergio Perez driving for Force India. He had his chance in McLaren, blew it, maybe because he went to that team too early, but then sort of had this really good resurgence of driving in Force India, getting some really good races, especially I think he's got a podium in every single season with Force India, and he had a great season in 2016. So yes, I feel like he does deserve that seat, and yes, this time around I do feel like he's ready for it. Who else do we have for that seat though? We've got Carlos Sainz. A lot of people saying that Carlos Sainz will be going to Ferrari for next season. He's a Red Bull driver. He's under contract with Toro Rosso at the moment, and recently he said his eyes are set on that Red Bull seat. But is he just sort of, you know, trying to play us, trying to sandbag? Is he still wanting the Ferrari seat maybe for next season? Who knows at this stage? Other names that we can sort of throw out there, Fernando Alonso. You know, we all know that he wants to drive somewhere other than McLaren for next season. But will Ferrari take him back at the end of the day? That is the question. Unfortunately, I don't think they will. I feel like they're done, especially with Alonso and Vettel in a team. That is going to be a very hostile relationship, and unfortunately, you just can't have those two in the same team. Other names thrown out there, Ricciardo and Vestappen, both driving for Red Bull at the moment, both in Red Bull, which are kind of struggling. They are kind of struggling this season. They should be way better than where they are. They should be up there with Mercedes and Ferrari, but unfortunately just not getting the results. So do either of those drivers want to maybe move and go try Ferrari and see whether that will get them better results? I don't feel like they will, and I do not feel like Ferrari have enough money, and I do not feel like Red Bull will let them go for any cheap price. I think Red Bull are just going to be asking for millions and millions and millions for both Ricciardo and Max Verstappen. So I feel like, again, just sort of confirming Red Bull here, I feel like they're going to stay the same. Ricciardo and Verstappen will stay at Red Bull. Other names for Ferrari, though, you've got Roman Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen in the Haas team, which is sort of like a Ferrari B team. And you also have Charles Leclerc and Giovinazzi. Roman Grosjean out of that list, though, I feel like is the only driver who is ready to go into a Ferrari seat. But you do get it sometimes where you get young drivers thrown into a heavy seat and they perform absolutely fantastically. Just look at Lewis Hamilton 2007, 2008. Very close to win the championship in 2007. Maybe a little bit of inexperience cost him that championship in 2007. 2008, he went on and won it. So sometimes when you get thrown into a big seat, you can perform. And only really the best drivers in Formula 1 do that. Sebastian Vettel, I feel like he has shown that a lot of people will be thinking, like, do you not think that Sebastian Vettel was a great driver? Yeah. But unfortunately for him, he wasn't thrown into a big team at the end of the day from the start. He was thrown into sort of smaller teams, built himself up. I mean, he won a race in a Toro Rosso at the end of the day. He is still a good driver. But is Leclerc and Giovinazzi ready? Giovinazzi, good driver. Hasn't really shown himself in Formula 1 at the moment. Struggled in the 2 races they raced for in Sauber. But, you know, you're in a Sauber at the end of the day. You're not exactly expected to set the timing sheets alight. And Leclerc, he is dominating F2 at the moment. If you don't know who Leclerc is, he is currently dominating the F2 season. I think he's got like 7 poles out of 7 races. I feel like the last one was disallowed because his car was underweight or something like that. Or there was a problem with the car which disallowed him. So that's 6 podiums out of 6 races at the end of the day for Leclerc. And he's got a lot of race wins. He came back in Hungary from like down in 20th position. And I think he finished 4th or maybe higher. Can't remember at the end of the day. But he had a fantastic comeback drive. And he is definitely someone for the future for Formula 1. But I don't think he's ready for that Ferrari seat. I feel like the Ferrari seat, in my personal opinion, will be going to Sergio Perez. Sergio Perez, I feel like he's ready for it. He's done a great job for the Ferrari team. And they will sign him up for the 2018 season. Now moving on to Red Bull. Already confirmed this. Ricciardo and Max Verstappen will both be staying at the Red Bull team. They've got nowhere else to go. No reason to leave the team. I think like Red Bull will be better in 2018. And they will both be staying with them. Moving on then to the 4th best team in Formula 1 at the moment, that is Force India. So, with Sergio Perez moving to Ferrari, who's going to replace that vacant seat? Only really one real option for me. Ocon will move into the first driver role, or maybe sort of an equal driver role with this new driver. You've got options coming in. You've got Pascal Werhlein, another Mercedes young driver like Ocon was. You've also got Jolyon Palmer sort of rumoured for it. As much as I'd like to see him in a better team and maybe he can get good results, I back him because he is a British driver and I want to see British drivers do well, of course. So he is sort of rumoured for that seat, but I mean Palmer's sort of rumoured for most seats at the end of the day. But who else could go there? I don't really feel like anyone else is rumoured. You've got their young driver, who I can't actually think of his name. What's his name? Sealis something. Sealis some. I can't remember his name, unfortunately. Leave it down in the comments to let everyone else know. But I can't remember his name. Sealis something Jr. That's going to bug me all day. But yes, I feel like he's not really ready for a Formula 1 seat at the end of the day. As much as maybe Force India would wanting to get him in there, I don't think they're going to have the confidence, especially as they are a midfield team. They need a little bit of experience, or at least a young driver who has shown some class. And for me, it's only really Pascal Werhlein. It's all just pointing to Pascal Werhlein. He will take Sergio Perez's seat in the Force India team. You're going to have a dream team there in Force India of Esteban Ocon and Pascal Werhlein. Pascal Werhlein is doing bits for Sauber right now. Marcus Ericsson, we all know he's a pay driver at the end of the day. He pretty much owns the Sauber team, whereas Pascal Werhlein is getting them the points and he is getting them the money, especially in a car that has a 2016 engine and is only really focusing on the aero. So he's doing a great job for them and he will deserve that Force India seat for next season. Now we move on to Williams, and I feel like Williams is going to be unchanged for 2018. Massa is really enjoying driving these 2017 cars. He was only really kicked out of Williams because they wanted to bring Stroll in, because he brings money. Stroll will stay in their seat, of course. They put in a lot of work to get him into a seat, and of course they're getting some money back for that. And I feel like he's really, since he had that little break where he tested out 2014 car doing setup works and stuff like that, he's had a really good sort of midway stage of the season, so I'm really happy for him there. And Massa is still a good driver. He's loving driving, and I think he wants to stay in the sport for 2018. So we're going to lock that in. Massa and Lance Stroll for next season. Now we move on to Toro Rosso. And with Sainz not going to Red Bull, will he stay at Toro Rosso for next season for another year? He really wants that Red Bull seat, but unfortunately he just can't get into it. He won't get into Ferrari as well. So where does Carlos Sainz go? Does he stay? Does he go? Unfortunately, I can't really give you the answer on that one. It's really confusing. The only place I can see that he is actually could possibly go is to McLaren. And you may think, why would he go to McLaren? Because maybe he could sort of go to a team where he could actually potentially have the chance of being world champion in the future. At Toro Rosso, you're never going to be a world champion. You're never going to win races in Toro Rosso. Yes, Sebastian Vettel did it, but I feel like that was just a once-in-a-lifetime achievement for Toro Rosso. They're never going to do it. They're never going to be better than Red Bull. And yeah, Carlos Sainz and Toro Rosso is not going to do anything. Whereas with McLaren, he might just, in a couple of years, he might just start to win races when McLaren will come back at the end of the day. McLaren are a team that will come back. They won't just fizzle out. They're too much of a big name in the sport to be down at the bottom of the field, and they will come back in a few years. So I feel like Carlos Sainz will go to either McLaren or stay at Toro Rosso, but I just don't know. I just don't know where he's going to go. But then we have a look at the other seat, and we've got Danny Kvyat, who is under a lot of pressure at the moment, which is annoying because he did such a good job in Red Bull, in my opinion. He did such a good job in Red Bull. He got that podium, then just one collision with Vettel, puts him down in Toro Rosso, knocks his confidence, and he's making mistakes now, having collisions with teammates, having collisions in Austria with Vestappen and Alonso, and it's a little bit frustrating at the end of the day. But who's going to replace him? Well, there's only really one option, because obviously we know how Red Bull like to work and Toro Rosso like to work. They like to bring the young drivers up. So Pierre Gasly is the next choice. Won GP2 last year, I believe. Yeah, he won GP2 last year. And now is driving in Super Aguri or something like that, or Formula 3000, where Stoffel Vandoorne raced last year when he couldn't have a seat in F1 or GP2. So he's really the only other option. You've got Nico Kari currently running in GP3 at the moment, I believe he is, but I don't think he's ready for a Formula 1 seat. You're going to put Pierre Gasly into that seat before Nico Kari at the end of the day. So Pierre Gasly could go into Toro Rosso for next season, but I've heard rumours that Kvyat has already signed a deal for next season, which is quite a bit of a surprise that Toro Rosso straight away just said to Kvyat, yep, you know, you're sort of underperforming, you're under pressure, but here, have a contract for next season. It's not really how Red Bull like to do it, but at the end of the day, they did sort of take that seat away from him last season. So maybe this is sort of like a consolation prize that, okay, we'll take away the seat, but it means you're guaranteed an F1 seat for a couple of years. So I do feel like that is actually a real possibility that Red Bull have done that, and Kvyat will be driving for Toro Rosso next season. So it's out of Sainz and Pierre Gasly who will be taking that seat. And in all honesty, I think Sainz is going to go to McLaren. I feel like Sainz will go to McLaren for next season, and you'll have Kvyat and Gasly in the Toro Rosso seats. Now we move on to the Renault team, and this is a really highly anticipated team for next season. Nico Hulkenburg confirmed for that team. We don't even need to discuss that. Nico Hulkenburg will be driving for Renault next season. He is doing absolute bits for that team. Scored every single point for them so far, and I feel like Renault are a team like McLaren who are on the up. They're getting back up to getting podiums once again, just like the old days of 2005, 2006, and also how Lotus were in 2012 and 2013. So Renault will be going back up. Hulkenburg will be trying to make them get there as well. But that number 2 seat, who is going to be there? Jolyon Palmer, will he stay for another season? Will Kubica go into that seat? A lot of people speculating that he will be driving. Of course, he did a 2017 test. He's driven a 2017 car. So that is a real possibility that Robert Kubica could be driving in Formula 1 next season. And the other option for me is Fernando Alonso. He could go back to the team where he won his 2 world championships. And with them on the up, it could be certainly a good idea for Alonso to go there. So, Hulkenburg sorted. Palmer, I feel like he's out. I feel like he's had his time, unfortunately. He's not been getting results recently. Unless he gets some great results in Belgium, Italy and Singapore, then I feel like he has to be on the way out, unfortunately. So that leaves us with Robert Kubica and Fernando Alonso. And this is pretty much for me, will Alonso be out of the sport or not? Will Alonso have another year in Formula 1, or will he call it quits? And knowing Alonso, well, not knowing Alonso personally, but watching Alonso over the years, I don't think he's a quitter. I do not think he is a driver that will just give up now. He is a driver that will be driving into his 40s. Honestly, Fernando Alonso is just going to keep on going until he wins that 3rd championship, or until his body gives up on him. And I feel like he is going to take that Renault spot for next season. As much as I really want to see Robert Kubica, and that's why this grid is so hard to speculate for next season, I feel like with too much good talent coming in, you've also got some old drivers coming back, like Robert Kubica, for example. Well, he's really the only one coming back. But it's very difficult to decide between Alonso. If Alonso decides to call it quits, and I'm wrong on saying that, you know, he is a fighter and he will be staying in the sport, then Kubica will straight away take that seat. Kubica's coming back if Alonso doesn't want it. But I feel like Alonso will be going back to Renault for next season. And unfortunately, Kubica's sort of going to have to be waiting on the sidelines unless any other teams want to pick him up. Now we move on to the Haas team for 2018, and this one was already sort of semi-announced. Grosjean and Magnussen staying with the team, and I agree with that. I believe that, and I feel like that is a suitable choice for Haas for next season. Grosjean and Magnussen, they've done a decent job for the team. They have struggled a little bit more this season. I did sort of predict that Haas were going to have a little bit of a wake-up call in terms of 2018, because they had such a great start to 2016, and then it's sort of, you know, towards the end of the season, they got used to being in F1, saw that, you know, it's not quite always going to go your way, and now this season they have struggled, but they've still got some decent results as well, so they are a really good midfield team at the moment. There, of course, I feel like Haas team will be on the up, but it's going to take them a lot of years to get there. It's going to be like Force India. Force India's taken them like 10 years to get to where they are, so I feel like Haas are going to do a similar sort of job there. But I feel like Grosjean and Magnussen, we're going to lock those two in, and they will be staying for next season. So we've got the final two teams on the grid. Next up is the big one. It is McLaren. So Vandoorne, he's got to stay at McLaren for next season. He's done an alright job against a really experienced teammate of Fernando Alonso. A lot of people saying, you know, they haven't seen enough from Stoffel Vandoorne. But at the end of the day, he is in a really disappointing car, really underperforming car. A car that has an engine that is it's just a tortoise at the end of the day. That engine is useless. The aerodynamics on the car are really, really good. Just look at the Hungarian Grand Prix and the fastest lap that Alonso managed to set, finishing in P6 as well. The aerodynamics on the car are really, really good. It's just the engine power that lets it down on the straights, unfortunately. So Vandoorne's done a good enough job. They put a lot of money into him to sort of perform for the McLaren team. So he is going to be staying for 2018. But who's going to take his seat? And I've already said this at the end of the day. I've already said Sainz. Sainz will be going to McLaren for next season. Alonso will be going to Renault. Button was only really the other option because he is sort of on a sabbatical at the moment, with the option to come back if there was a seat available. But I feel like they're going to give that to Carlos Sainz instead. So Carlos Sainz will be driving for McLaren alongside Stoffel Vandoorne. So that brings us to the final team in the championship, because I don't believe there are going to be any new teams for 2018. As much as I'd like to have some new teams, and maybe if Liberty Media could get on that, they might be able to bring some new teams into 2018, but we just have to wait and see for that confirmation at the moment. But returning to Sauber, Sauber have already confirmed that they will be running 2018 Ferrari engines for next season, and will sort of become a Ferrari B team, sort of pushing Haas out of the way of being that Ferrari B team, and now Sauber are going to be that Ferrari B team. Okay, yep, I understand that's a little bit confusing. For Haas are sort of out, Sauber have come in, and Sauber, of course, are going to be picking up one of those young Ferrari drivers, of course. Marcus Ericsson, I've already said this, he's going to be staying in that team. He pretty much owns that Sauber team. It's owned by the people that sponsor him, so he's sort of guaranteed a drive for F1 next season in that Sauber team, unless Ferrari have a huge say in it, but I still feel like Ericsson will still be in the sport for next season. So that leaves us to two young Ferrari drivers. You've got Leclerc, who's doing bits in F2 at the moment, or Giovinazzi, who came second in GP2. Giovinazzi, he has experience in Formula 1. He's raced 2 races already this season for Sauber. He's done a few practice sessions for Haas. So I do feel like he's got experience, but also you've got Leclerc, who did the young driver test in Hungary a couple of weeks ago. So out of these two drivers, who is going to get it? It's really difficult to choose. Honestly, I still, even now, I don't know who I'm going to pick. Giovinazzi, he's got experience, and as much as I want him to have that seat, I just feel like Charles Leclerc is doing too much in F2. He is shouting too much at the moment for me not to listen right now, and I feel like Charles Leclerc is going to get that seat in Sauber next year, and that unfortunately is going to leave Giovinazzi out. Whether he gets a seat in Formula 1 in the future or not is yet to be decided, or whether he gets pushed out in towards Formula E, we'll just have to wait and see. But I feel like at the moment Charles Leclerc is going to get that seat for F1 2018. So those are my driver predictions for the 2018 season. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Don't forget to let me know down in the comment section down below. Leave all of your driver predictions down below, and we will be doing a video in the future where I discuss your comments and who you think, and I sort of, you know, have my opinions against that, and sort of, you know, go into analysis of what everybody else thinks, because this is a big topic. This is always a big talking point in the F1 season. You know, as soon as silly season arrives, everybody's talking about it. So I want to get you guys involved, and we will do a video in a couple weeks time where we talk about your guys' opinions as well. But if you have enjoyed the video, don't forget to smash a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so for daily Formula 1 content, and also F1 2017 content as well when it will be out, because as soon as that game is out, we're going to be smashing it, doing as many videos as we possibly can for career mode and stuff like that. There's still going to be quality videos, but I'm just going to try and get as many out as possible as well. Don't forget to share this video with your friends, and I will see you next time. But until then, it's goodbye from me.